All right, let's get our first conversation on the road for you real quick. That is the focus on the Naira for crude contract, which, like many other initiatives and policies of government, are saying, who knows, perhaps a little more than its fair share of controversy and headwinds. As of today, civil society groups, critical stakeholders in the oil and gas sector, and even those who are, in the marketing space are saying that, look, with all the rumors around government's alleged plans to withdraw or renege on this initiative, the advice is that it should not, that shouldn't be the case. As a matter of fact, they're urging that the NNPCL and, of course, Dangote Refinery in particular must come back to dialogue, must come to the proverbial round table so they can do the, if you like, put finishing touches to this deal. Remember that last year, the president, who is the de facto Minister of Petroleum Resources, had said, look, going forward to bring a bit of ease into the downstream sector, there has to be this idea that Dangote Refinery, as well as other refineries in this country, should be able to buy crude in Naira as against the practice that had been in place, which was to buy or pay for it in dollar. As it stands today, whether or not the NNPCL comes to this dialogue with Dangote and the other critical stakeholders, what exactly should we be looking forward to, and in what way will these benefit the teeming consumers of petrol in this country, whether individuals, households, or businesses? This morning, we're joined live via Zoom by an energy consultant who is also an expert in the sector, Dr. Wisdom. And Doc, good morning to you, and we want to appreciate you for your time with us this morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
So let's begin with, well, I don't want to call it the elephant in the room, but let's just say the nut of the matter, which is the crude for, Naira for crude deal that is now becoming a talking point as if it was announced just at breakfast time yesterday. What exactly are we dealing with? What are the real issues in the mix of this conversation?
I think the real issues are that the crude for Naira originally set up was supposed to be for a pilot period of about 6 months, and then that will be reviewed. And so we've come to the end of the 6 months period, and this is when we're looking at the review. The review, contrary to what was said originally, that this is a discontinuation, it is not. It is actually a review between the NNPCL, the government interests, and other players, which are, of course, meant to represent local refining, like the Dangote Refinery, the modular refineries, and other refineries. And I think this is, are we going to sustain the domestic, this domestic supply is in the Naira currency? I think that's one of the things that they're going to be looking at as the frame of the new deal. The second is, are they going to increase or maintain or decrease the volume that is allotted to the local refineries? And of course, is it going to be a 6 month review period, or is there enough sufficient grounds in the pilot case to increase this period? So essentially, it is not that there was a discontinuation. It's just that a lot of people are, there was some need for that renegotiation with the original contract. But I think what has come out is because of the success that Dangote Refinery in particular
Evidently, we're losing a bit of audio stream there with our guest, Dr. Wisdom, and hopefully we are able to reconnect with him. and then continue that conversation. You see, the energy sector, I mean, the oil and gas sector is as complex as they come. Most times, Nigerians are not, patient enough to understand the nitty-gritty issues in the sector. So, for them, for the most part, they're just interested in how to get to access the product, which is petrol in this case, and then be able to also get it at a price that is reasonably affordable.
Yeah, the government have also responded and said we are still together with Dangote. Nothing has changed. Just that recall, when the president had brought out the initiative of crude to Naira
for crude.
Naira for crude, rather. The concern about the first phase was marked for about 6 months, which was subject to renewal. So what we're having now is the fact that Dangote says we are ready for renewal, or we are ready for talks. But what really matters and a concern to many is has to do with a concern about even with the increase of crude production, but we're still having issues about importation as well. Can we not have a capacity to rely on our own production, even with the increase and a lot of investment towards that sector? So it still boils for the fact that we need a more commitment. If we have local refineries, all of the prices fluctuating. The other time we've seen the fact that about last week there was a slice in the price. Somebody said this is not sustainable. We cannot continue to look at the marketers are losing billions of naira as a result of the fluctuating of price. So if you buy a product at 890 today, and unfortunately there is a price war between Dangote and NNPC, and then the prices drops, who loses? So what are the protection of the marketers as well, in which they have also argued from that angle. So we need more, because free markets sometimes will cause push some problems both to the marketers and the buyers, because it gets to the point that it works with fluctuations. Anything can happen. You wake up the next day, prices skyrocketed to 1,000, the price of fuel reduces to 600 now. So who is at the losing end? These are the arguments some of the marketers are really having, and we wish Dr. Wisdom is still with us to look at all of those issues. Doctor, clearly, marketers are actually having an argument, which I earlier hinted, about the issues of fluctuation of prices. The last week, we had the case of drop of about the prices to about 890, some 880, and 900, and thereabout. What is your concern? Because marketer says some of us are losing billions of naira due to these fluctuations.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think absolutely, it's true, but you need to understand that is one of the characteristics of a free market system. Today, they're on the losing end. But there's nothing to say that consumers may not be on the losing end tomorrow. I mean, if the prices are going up, now we have seen it before, Michael, that the trend, sometimes you have a price increase and then someone has bought an inventory for a much lower price, and they simply stop. The moment that price increase is even hinted, the refilling stations will simply stop selling to the public, and then we await the next signal from their head office on what the new pricing will be before they continue. So, in effect, from an economic psychological standpoint, you see that prices reflect immediately upwards and they are very sticky downwards. But be that as it may, it is a characteristic of the free market system. But I think what the different marketers are now asking for is a 6 months stability period for price review. But then that wouldn't be a free market system, because what you're essentially saying with the 6 months review is we're able to actually reduce prices immediately, but we're going to wait 6 months to do so that the marketers are happy. That doesn't class as a free market system, and we need to be careful, because there is a bit of an irony, or best case an oxymoron, when you look at the narrative from the oil marketers. They are saying we need some sort of price control and stability so that they don't lose money, but they're also calling for continued importation. And there's something about the international market. The fuel pricing there is quite erratic, right? On one inventory, you're getting fuel for XYZ prices. On the second inventory, your unit prices are on a different level. It could be going up, it could be going down. So the Dangote even affords a bit of stability more than actually just sourcing from the international market. And the reason you and I may argue that we didn't see that stability in the time passes because the government was paying subsidy. So those undulations were absorbed within the subsidy part itself. But right now, I think the marketers are not really unanimous on what they should be asking for, because if they're asking for all of this, it's almost like they're trying to cherry pick the part of the free market system that works for them. But ultimately, I think a review period shouldn't be more than 1 month. 1 month is enough to clear your inventory and go back, and then if there's any fluctuation in price, yes, there will be fluctuations in pricing, but it wouldn't be enough to knock them off business, because everyone is clear that anything could change within the space of a month. That's a better balance between their demand and the welfare of the citizens.
The sector, don't you feel that this may also discourage further investment? Because if people are having a concern about unpredictable market conditions, what happens to the investors? What happens to those who want to come into the sector? What is your concern about that?
All right. The first and I think most important thing that we ought to understand in this market is that there are risks and there are opportunities. So let's do a little bit of a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis will look at the strength of the Nigerian market, and the strength is that we have such a huge population and that energy poverty still subsists, meaning that we need a lot of energy. If we look at the weakness within the market, we still have challenges with regulatory oversight. We still have challenges with getting crude across to the basic refiner. So that's a weakness in the downstream market, and by extension, stability of supply is still a challenge. When you look at opportunities, there's still opportunities for us to optimize, whether it be cost optimization across the various the refineries or across our delivery value chain. There are opportunities, but the threat continues to be the fact that there are undulations in the market system. So, Michael, it is impossible for you to escape the SWOT of every business. This is just a risk of the business. It is a threat of the business. We are not here as business people to be able to circumvent challenges. We're here to face those challenges, mitigate them, to either avoid reduce the consequences of occurrence to as low as reasonably probable, or even make sure that the event doesn't occur at all. But I think in this case, the best case will be to plan to cushion the effect. Do not forget that it's only a season. So why are we not hearing these complaints when during the timing when the prices were going up? Why is it that now is the time where the marketers are really pressing on for a stability plan? When the consumers were facing this challenge, why were we not hearing this sort of outcry? So it is a SWOT of the business. Either ways, somebody has to face that challenge, either the consumers or the marketers, but they can plan accordingly to make sure that that effect doesn't cushion them. But eliminating that impact, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. It's part of the risk of the business.
This idea of Naira for crude is interventionist in nature. Others say it's a knee-jerk approach to fixing the fundamental issues that bedevil the sector. Could there have been a better way to get around these problems?
All right. I think you're right in some of those school of thought. And the way I would further galvanize my school of thought in tandem with what you've just said is to say it's a stopgap plan. a stopgap plan to make sure that we have enough inventory to satisfy domestic refining. If I were to be the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, what would I do differently? I will introduce a special bid round, and that bid round will be focused on getting bids only from the owners of refineries. And I'll give you context why that is important. So imagine if the Dangote refinery has, they have fields that has been concessioned to them, and they are given the approval to develop those fields because they are on the receiving end of trying to source inventory abroad. There's no doubt on my mind that they will put in the required investments, develop these fields, and they would have both the feedstock and they will now have the. So think about it from end to end. The feedstock will be there from their fields. That means they refine what they produce, and they also have the outlets where they sell both locally and internationally. Now, why is this very important? What you find out is that if you put on Google countries that are the cheapest for PMS and diesel and the rest of the refined products, I think what you're going to find is that countries like Iran, for example, even countries in Africa, some of them, what they're doing is because they are refining from the fields, the feedstock from the fields that they currently own, they're able to take the very rich profit margins in the upstream and use that to discount the downstream, provide cheaper petroleum products without necessarily getting on a losing end. So what we could find is the Dangote refinery could say, look, the profit margin, if we're producing oil at $30 per barrel in maybe the field of 35, and we're selling at about 70, that's about double the the production, the profitability. And okay, we are going to refine what we produce to even increase our value chain, but because the margins are so healthy on the upstream side of things, we're not going to really bother about margins on the downstream, or it will reduce our profit margins and then pass on cheaper products to the national market. So I think what I would do as president is, because this has been a success, I will call for a bid round. Call the big refiners, the boas of this of Nigeria, people like the Dangote refinery, and of course we have the Walter Smith, and they have their own field. We call them into one room, and then we request them to choose their own fields, and then they get a mandate on how fast they're going to develop these fields and the sort of preferential terms that they will pass on to Nigerian consumers. I think ultimately that is going to get us to a point where we're not losing a national inventory in Naira and thereby losing the opportunity to earn in dollars, which is what we really need, especially when we're trying to use our reserve, depleting our reserve quickly to be able to stabilize the Naira. So that's the best way I think we should get out of this dilemma.
The prices has dropped, but the impact is the same. Cost of transportation has not dropped. You go to the market, the prices of goods are still the same. What significant price can be enough for all of these to drop? Because if we argue that we had the product at 960 and thereabout, but now the product is at 900 or 930, 880, as the case may be, at the different retail stations, but we're still having these issues still remain the same. When Nigerians says, some Nigerians who probably are not having a direct contact with the product, saying that things hasn't changed. We have not felt the impacts about this drop in price. What is your concern about that?
Absolutely. I think I'm going to take it from a two-pronged approach. I'm going to lay out the concern that I have, and I'm going to also tell you why I think that is happening. Think about it this way. We're almost constrained to think about transportation
Because lost the breaking transmission right there with Doctor. As soon as it comes in, we'll lay those emphasis because the concern about, sometimes many Nigerians feel that whenever things goes up, it's very hard to find it comes down again. The issues about the fuel has kept us in a position where we're seeing that prices are dropping every day. Sometimes even it's a difference of 20 naira
in terms of pump
in
price.
pump price,
Right.
and even at the retail as well. So why are we not having these reflected, on the
Cost
day
of food
one-to-one,
items,
daily to day
transportation.
transportations and all of that? If we have price drop today, can we find a situation where one is going from a location you used to pay about a 200 and said, okay, fine, it's 150 naira, which
on account of the drop.
on account of the
price
drop in the
petrol.
price of petrol, but we are having the issues
That
of
hasn't
still
been
buying
the
the
case.
same, and things are still being the same.
Some people sarcastically say is the market forces that are work, but these issues are far beyond market forces. There are those who have talked about price regulation. Question is, even within the economic space, can you practically regulate prices? People say, well, government should regulate price. The FCCP says that is the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission should regulate prices. But how do you really do that? How do you go to open markets, whether in Abuja or any state across the Federation, to say you want to regulate prices? Because most of these vendors will tell you that, look, these are the peculiar circumstances under which I make my purchases. So it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. So how do you deal with these peculiarities as a government or even as an individual? So regulation is near impossible along those lines. But the question is, can we have reforms that are driven in such a way that they are not only aggressive and sweeping, but they are systematic? Because whether you like it or not, until the everyday Nigerian realizes that an item he bought a week or a couple of days ago for, let's say, 40,000 has now dropped to, say, 36,000 on account of the fact that there's also a decline in the price of petrol, and then it's near impossible for them to see or appreciate what exactly it is the government is doing.
Doctor, if you're still with us, quickly give us your perspective, because one may argue that we may have these prices reduced to about 500 now or 600 now, the case may be, but the changes in the markets still remain constant. All right, of course, we'll continue to look at all of those broader perspective, to looking at the free market initiative of this government, the Crude to Naira negotiation as well, about the Dangote Refinery, the Port Harcourt Refinery, even when we are yet to really know much of the impact that refinery is really offering to many Nigerians, which is still a major concern. But what really matters is, how is this directly affecting and impacting, the life of every Nigerian, day-to-day activities, purchase of goods, life of Nigerians in general, upon the removal of subsidies? About 2 years of a removal of subsidy, how far and how well? Even people are even raising concern about where are the savings from the subsidy? Even when the presidency said we have increased allocation to state, we're doing this, we're doing that, managers are still having to question about the impact so far, just like a tips of the highs, which is still not really affecting more in terms of positive impact on Nigerians. But the government and the presidency has over time and again says that we are on track and we're on the right path. Things definitely will take shape just as we continue to the 2 years, even by May, this government will be about 2 years in position. Doctor, quickly, before we wrap up the conversation, we were laying emphasis about the impact. My colleague has raised concerns about regulators, see what they can do to protect customers. But what matters is drop of price has not affected, or is in no way, showing impacts in the economic sector.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it may show in the what I'll call the non-heavy duty transportation sector, and that is to do with, say, you're using a bus to transport people, a PMS bus to transport people from one location to another. You may see that show up on that. But even at that, transportations are actually arguing that the cost of maintenance and generally just the cost of paying the new minimum wage to their staff has eroded any margins of savings. So it's more of a price stability than a price increase. So what has come as a price reduction from the PMS has really enabled them not to increase their fares. Rather, they keep it stable since last year. However, what I was trying to say before the network got me off was that if you look at the actual heavy duty transportation sector where you have the trucks, a lot of them use, and even when you look at the food processing centers, a lot of them use diesel. And so if you're looking at the price decrease from PMS, it's not possible to take credit for same for in those sectors, because you're looking at diesel being used for a lot of this food processing and the actual truck transportation of food, and not PMS. But ultimately, I think when we get our refining better and as we get into the future, I see diesel prices dropping as well massively, and then at some point we'll be able to take credit on our consumer price index. And the other thing is, the final thing I'd like to say is that as I started out saying, the prices reflect immediately upwards. So if there's any fuel price increase, it will reflect on products immediately, but that's taken downwards. And one reason is because the inventory that we're currently selling, right? The price increase is only about a week old, right? A decrease is a week old. Those inventory perhaps were bought to last for a month. So it will only take a cycle of selling off the previous inventory before we even attempt to see any price decrease in the consumer price index. But that is also contingent and subject to the future trend, because if they're about to decrease the price and they notice that, oh, the fuel prices are about to go up, then they will not even decrease it again. So that's the complex sort of interaction that affects our consumer price index vis-a-vis the price of PMS.
Dr. Wisdom Enang, energy consultant, would like to say a big thank you to you for your time and these very valuable insights you've shared with us this morning on the program. We do hope you have a great day ahead of you.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
We'll take a quick break at this point, everyone. On the flip side of the break, we'll push a second conversation your way on the program. Do stay with us.